I like to think of positions on the circuit as different states of being. Track states, if you will. Probably because I imagine a debug menu somewhere listing my current state. If you have a more visual mind, you may want to think of these as 3D zones around the course. I'd love to talk about the checkpoint system too, as well as backing up my findings here with evidence in the code, but I simply do not have the knowledge or technical know-how to deconstruct this game. If you think that you could, please get in touch. I'd love to work with you. I believe there are several track states. These include on track, above track, off track, jumps, instafall, above limits, and special exceptions. Let's start with the obvious one to get some definitions out the way. On track means, well, on the track. The game is tracking your position, going around the circuit and crossing the start-finish line will grant you a lap completion, and you're in little danger of clipping through the track. The game has some issues, but the track seems pretty solid. Items, or gags as they're called in this game, can interact with you because the game knows where you are. Easy one out the way, let's look at the next one, off track. This is where there is no track at all beneath you. Firstly, the game stops tracking your position unless you are still near the track. Items with a localized range can still hit you, but homing ones can't. What's also different is that spending too long in this off-track state will cause the game to think you've, well, fallen off. This full animation will play, and the game will make a crucial decision as to where to put you back. The decision goes like this: is the player near a new piece of track? If the answer is yes, the game will place you on that piece of track. If not, the game will place you on the last place of the circuit the game tracked you at. What constitutes as near a piece of track? I don't know, it seems to vary a lot. But remember, interacting with any part of the track, even just for a split second, means being back on track and your position is updated accordingly. I estimate that you have around 1.2 to 1.4 seconds of off-track time before the game makes this decision. However, this time allowance does not reset when you land back on the track. It only resets when you fall off or end the race. Let's look at a practical example of how this works before we move on. Here I am at a shortcut opportunity in Pyramids of Mars 2. I know the game gives me over a second of off-track time, so I can drive off the track, and when I fall, I'm deemed to be near the track above me. The game puts me back here, and I can complete the rest of the lap very easily. Nice! But let's throw in a minor shortcut into the mix. At the end of this tunnel, you see I drive off the track to take an optimal path to where we were before. I estimate that I spent just over a second off the track here. So now if I try the same shortcut, but with only a sliver of off-track time remaining, you see I cannot make the shortcut and I fall off. Since I fell off, however, the game resets my time allowance and I can attempt the shortcut again, this time successfully. Now we've defined the easiest to explain and the hardest, let's look at the third main track state, above track. This is where you still have track beneath you, but you are not on the track. To get an estimate for the height that on track becomes above track, look at the banner across the start-finish line. Just above its highest point is where you transition between the two. Being above the track has some major advantages, but also some downsides. The biggest upshot is that the game does not treat you as off the track, thus not eating into your precious off-track time. It is, however, very difficult to see where you are in relation to the track, so you could easily stray into off-track territory if you're not careful. The other pro and con is that the game is not tracking your position. This does mean that almost no items can hit you, but crossing the start-finish line will not grant you a completed lap until you return to the track. Straying off the track is dangerous too, because it is unlikely that you're near a new piece of track, and so falling off will take you back to where you took off from. Those are the main states of track: on track, above track, and off track. So where do the others fit in? Most of them are variations of the main states, so let's fill the gaps. The first one is Instafall. Being here instantly uses up all of your off-track time and you fall off. I'm only aware of one notable use of this state, and it's in this section of Pyramids of Mars 2. I don't know whether it uses up your off-track time instantly, or just much quicker than usual, but I'm sticking with the name Instafall for now. The next is what I call above limits. At a certain height, the game stops caring whether there is track beneath you or not. This either functions identically to off-track or Instafall. It's hard to tell which, but it doesn't matter because it rarely comes up unless you're experimenting. Next is jumps, and again for the most part this doesn't matter as the optimal route for most tracks ignores most of the jumps. Jumps are hard to test, but I believe they're a special subset of on-track. Items can still hit you here. I don't believe they eat into your off-track time, but failing a jump usually leads to a section of Instafall where you are placed at whichever side of the jump you are closest to. The final category is special exceptions, and while I've kept the name broad in case I've forgotten anything, the example I had in mind was this section of Planet Acme 1. This section of track has all the properties of above track, except there's a solid track directly beneath you. Falling off here takes us back to the last marked position by the game, not back to the exception track, and homing items can't find us here. So that's track states. We've got a firm grasp of where we can go in the game, but I kept talking about homing items and items with a localized range. What's that all about? It's the next video. Thanks for watching.